Speaking 26. Aaron at speaking26.com. TOEFL iBT Speaking 26. Aaron at speaking26.com. Pharmacists, when does registration for FPGEE open this year, 2025? When? May 24th, less than 3 months from today's live stream. Some of you are going to make it in 2025. Others, I'll see you in 2026. And worse, others, 2027. For those of you who are going to make it in 2025, today's live stream will be about at least these two things. Number one, passing as soon as possible versus passing your next test. And number two, advice for TOEFL speaking, question 1. Passing as soon as possible versus passing your next test. I've learned that most of you want to pass your next test. I want you to pass as soon as possible. What's the difference? The difference is the people who are waiting until they're ready, waiting until they believe they're going to pass their next test, have a lower chance of finishing in 2025. On the other hand, the people who are willing to not pass and use that not passing experience as a stepping stone, as a building block to pass their next time, those are the people with the higher likelihood of finishing their TOEFL for FPGEE this year in 2025. I have learned that it is very hard for many of you pharmacists to take the TOEFL and not pass, even though FPGEE doesn't care how many times you take it, even though CVS and Safeway and whatever doesn't care, you, for some reason, do care. Can any of you pharmacists tell me any negative repercussions to taking the test 3 times over the next 3 months instead of only once at the end of 3 months? The difference between as soon as possible versus your next test. Can any of you tell me any negative repercussions that come from that? If you can, send me an email because I'm always open to learning. But I don't think you can tell me that FPGEE, NAPS, CVS, SAFE, I don't think you can tell me that any of them care. I think I can tell you that you're the one who cares too much, that you're the one holding yourself back. Aaron, it's hard to take the test and not pass. That's because you are choosing an attitude. That's because you are choosing a perspective that does not serve you. I would rather you have a perspective that does serve you. Okay? On one hand, here's the person who is going to pass as soon as possible. Over the next 3 months, this person is going to take the test 3 times. If they don't pass the first time, they will know that they used that test as the best form of practicing, as the highest quality form of practicing. They're going to use the next test that they don't pass. Of course, they're going to try to pass, but just in case they don't, they're going to use it as a building block to pass faster than the other person who's waiting until they're ready, who's going to wait until 3 months and not take advantage of the time they had before that. Do you see how the person who's waiting until they're ready for their next test, which you'll never know you're ready, do you see how that person is, do you see how that person's psychology, their weak mindset, do you see how that person is letting their ego and comfort zone get in the way of themselves? It's not their accent, it's not their grammar, it's not their speaking rate, it's their mindset, it's their lack of a better perspective that's holding them back. Be okay with not passing this test on your way to passing as soon as possible. If I were you, I would be taking the test about once every 3 weeks. Some of you, once every 2 weeks, others, once a month. You can take the test once a month, but you don't because you have to tell your husband or wife that you didn't pass, or you have to tell your parents that you didn't pass, or even worse, if you don't have to tell anybody, then you're not doing it because your ego is too fragile. I hope you make the better decision. And instead of thinking you're going to wait until your next test when you're ready, go watch my videos with all the pharmacists that I helped pass and realize one thing. When they took that TOEFL that they got 26 on speaking and finished all 4 of FPGEE's requirements in one sitting, when they took that test, they did not know that they were going to pass that test. About 1 week later, about 6 days later, when they got the results, they were happily surprised. They didn't go into that test knowing with 100% certainty that they are going to pass that time. No. Instead, they went in bravely to pursue their goals. They had the courage to pursue their dreams, meaning they were willing to risk failure. And that's why they are further along in the process than you currently are. If you're not willing to risk failure, then you don't deserve it as much as the other pharmacists who are willing to risk failure. Speaking26.com. The second part of this live stream is about advice for TOEFL speaking question number 1, TOEFL iBT speaking question number 1. This week I was helping a pharmacist on his way to getting 26 on speaking and finishing his TOEFL for FPGEE's requirements, 2025. And when we were making improvements to his question number 1, I said, okay, I see why you think that's the way to make your answer more advanced, but this is not the writing section. In the speaking section for 26, I see why you think, or I see why you would blindly take the advice of tutors and teachers who have not shown as many verifiable humans getting 26 on TOEFL iBT speaking as I, Aaron, have. Now, let me show you the advice that I've given the people who have passed. And I told him, it's up to you. You get to decide if you like this or not. I showed him that his strategy was this. He used his 15 seconds to prepare to formulate these overly complex sentences. And at the beginning of his 45-second answer, he was able to say those overly complicated sentences. But then, in multiple different questions, number 1 that we practiced, in the middle of his answers, in the middle of 45 seconds, he got stuck. His mind went blank. He either went silent or what he was saying was so low quality, so far below 26 that it might as well have been silent. Many of you experience this also. Anytime you've had a 45-second answer and have not been able to finish it, anytime you consider the small amount of time that is 45 seconds to be a long period of time, I know it feels like a lot to you guys, But when you're thinking objectively and rationally, you know that 45 seconds, not minutes or hours, but 45 seconds is a short period of time. It feels like a long period of time, and you are sometimes unable to fill the answer up because of what you're doing to yourself. What you're doing to yourself, what other teachers and tutors who haven't shown as many verifiable humans getting 26 on TOEFL iBT speaking have been telling you to do is to use your most unnecessary, overly complicated, complex sentences. You make it too hard on yourself. And that's why you freeze, or that's why you get stuck, or that's why you say, I can't think of what to say. Even though TOEFL describes question number 1 as a familiar topic. Pharmacists, those of you who are going to pass in 2025, which is probably less than 30% of you. Pharmacists, less than 30% of pharmacists. Of course, you can talk for 45 seconds about a familiar topic. The reasons why you sometimes cannot is because you're making it too hard on yourself. You think you have to say 2 reasons. You think you have to insert a personal example, even if you don't really have a personal example. And in other ways, you're making it too hard on yourself. Hey, Aaron, how do I make it easier on myself? Good question. You make it easier on yourself by focusing on what TOEFL's scoring rubrics say. Underneath topic development, it says progression of ideas. Focus on progressing your ideas. Hey, pharmacists, the less than 30% of you that are going to pass in 2025, you have ideas. You're an adult, you're not a child. You're an ambitious adult, you're not an unambitious adult. You have graduated. You have ideas. You already have ideas, especially about what TOEFL describes as a familiar topic. Like the topics on TOEFL iBT, speaking question number 1. You already have ideas. If you will allow yourself to use your natural fluency, the thing that other people have gotten you to incorrectly view as not academic enough or not advanced enough, once you allow yourself to access the natural fluency and ideas that you, of course, already have, you will be progressing your ideas better in a higher scoring way, more automatically, just like you want to be. Okay? So stop putting so much pressure on yourself for every sentence to be genius. This is not the writing section. It's the speaking section, and you benefit the most by having confidence and by speaking in a good flow. At any point in this live stream, did you feel like I constructed a sentence that was complex and flexed my speaking fluency muscles the most to try to impress you? Or is the best part me being able to speak for 45 minutes if I wanted to, because I'm comfortable, because I'm confident, because I'm progressing my ideas? Speaking26.com. Okay, I will see some of you soon. Best of luck to all test takers.